Now, what we would like to present is how to distinguish between an ordinary development from a sustainable development. What you would like to look for, what you would like to understand in a building before investing. Also, we would like to discuss the benefits of investing or staying in sustainable development. Now, what does green building provide? Basically, it gives you operational savings. And when we say operational savings, we talk about electricity and water. For the different certifying bodies, it actually builds up depending on your certification level, how much savings you can get. And it can go as much as 40% in terms of power savings. Next is the healthier planet, wherein I think with the situation nowadays, sustainability and wellness will be and will play a big factor moving forward. And this not only is for a healthier environment, but also for a better, healthy well being of everyone staying in the building. So that goes to number three, which is social well being. Now, efficiency is very important, and this links to profitability of the company. As this pandemic goes on, efficiency of each employee, whether working from home or have already adjusted to the modified ECQ and are working in the office space, you want them to be as efficient as possible. And this is something that sustainable buildings can provide. Lastly, green or sustainable buildings and developments can provide higher value, whether it is for resale or for lease. Now let's talk about homes before we go to the offices. In your own homes, it is important actually to already replace the CFL or the compact fluorescent lamps into LED. LED actually costs more, but it has a longer life and at the same time consumes less electricity. Number two would be low flow fixtures. Low flow fixtures, it is not just going to um, the Home Depot and buying any water closet that has dual flush. You have to dive into the specifications and you have to ask whether the number one flushing is for 3 and 6 liters. There are ones that are for 2 and 5 liters. So you have to ask for the specifications. Another thing you have to think about is the aerators. Aerators mixes air and water to create pressure so that you don't need to consume as much water as you normally need. Next would be operable windows and the types of windows that you use. So now operable windows provide proper ventilation within your space. And I think not every room or development automatically has a window, right? So you have to make sure that when going into developments and studying developments that you would like to purchase, every livable space should have an operable window. Solar energy. Now, okay, this you have to study carefully because not all solar energy or solar panel systems are efficient enough. You have to study the specifications. And there are other details that you would have to look for. Number one, where to put the solar panels. Normally, people recommend for you to put it on your roof, but you have to check your structure, the structure of your houses, if it can accommodate solar powers. Next, there are two types of solar power that you can use. One is that you can throw to the grid, and the other one is wherein you have batteries stored within your house. What's the difference? Now, when you're going for the grid, you have to apply with your power company. What happens is with the excess electricity that you don't use, it's thrown to the grid and sold to them. So now when you get your monthly bill, you see some savings there, and they will be providing you with the summary of amount that they will be deducting from your bill. For the battery one is you will need additional space because you will need enough storage to put the excess solar power or electricity that you will not use. So these batteries are charged and you can use them accordingly as when you need it. Next will be green certification. Um, Later on, I'll dive into the different certifications, but this is when I say compliance is not enough. Just being compliant with a few categories or a few specifications of sustainability is not enough for you truly to get the savings that you need. Because once you get certified, that means you have abide by and followed through with all the major specifications of the certifying body. You cannot just pick and choose which specification you would like, because it is a holistic program. Now, a certification would also ensure that during the design phase, you have already incorporated the sustainability and wellness features. Being compliant means that you just adopted and it's an afterthought. So these are things that you have to look forward to and look into. Now, talking about green office or sustainable office, double glazed glass is very important. If you can do triple glaze, that is even better. Now, double glazed glass allows enough sunlight to come in, but not the heat. Now, that is very important. There was one research done, and they're saying that every degree above 25 degrees reduces efficiency of employees by about 4% for every degree. Now, with this pandemic, people are talking about social distancing, and companies will need more spaces, more area, more office space to accommodate their employees. And with the companies thinking about ways on how to save, efficiency is very important. So definitely they will go to buildings that can provide better efficiency for their employees. Rainwater recycling is basically a catch basin wherein you use rainwater for non-potable use, meaning that's the flushing of the toilet, that's the irrigation of the plants. This saves you a lot. Energy efficient air conditioning. Um, Recently, there was a study by AccuWeather. I'm sure you know AccuWeather. You see it in all your phones. They tell the weather forecast for the next week or so. And the type of air conditioning and the indoor air quality within your space actually increases efficiency, number one. And number two, makes sure that viruses, not just limited to COVID, can stay away from your area. You need to have proper ventilation. Need to have proper indoor air quality. Now, zero carbon building is about using renewable energy. As mentioned here, any building that uses 100% renewable energy can be called zero carbon. And lastly, green certification, which I mentioned earlier, I will discuss further. Now, here it is. The question, I guess, is do we have to go for the 4 certifications? Why do we need to get 4 certifications wherein maybe LEED is enough or maybe EDGE is enough, right? Now, each of these certifications have their own concentration in terms of what it does for the property. For example, LEED talks about the overall efficiency of energy. So it talks about the type of glass that you use for your windows. It talks about bicycle racks to make sure that people who use bikes going to and from work has a place to put their bikes and even take a shower within the building. LEED also talks about the construction phase and the design phase of your building. So they look into how you construct your building, where you put your waste, all the way to what type of material that you use, whether it's a low VOC paint, whether it's wood flooring, wherein does the wood supplier have certifications of reforestation. That's LEED. EDGE, if you're not familiar with, is Excellence in Design for Greater Efficiencies. And EDGE is actually an affiliate of the International Finance Corporation of the World Bank. Now, EDGE concentrates more on the amount of savings that you can get from sustainable buildings. And for you to be zero carbon, that gives you 40% savings at a minimum. So imagine the operating savings that you can get. And why did we go for edge? Number one, because of this pandemic, multinational companies abroad will be looking for savings and they will be looking more for outsourcing. Remember, Philippines is now number two in the world in terms of outsourcing, um, and number one is India. Being that, with lower operating expenses, lower manpower cost, but abundant in talent, outsourcing companies will definitely move towards the Philippines in the long run. And this EDGE and LEED certification would help you and us get the proper tenants for the building. Now we have Verde, which is part of the Philippine Green Building Council. Verde basically translates LEED into the Philippine environment because LEED was made in the US. It's by US Green Building Council. There are a few specifications that are tailor fit to the US environment. So Verde takes care of that and makes it Philippine related. The last one, WELL certification, I would think is the most significant in terms of the certifications today. WELL certification talks about the wellness and the health and safety of the employees of the building and also the residents of the condominium unit. What's nice about WELL is there are programs with health and fitness considered. It talks about the nutrition of the food intake of the employees of your company. It talks about the benefits and other features of the building, such as indoor air quality, which I mentioned earlier. I joined this FIABCHI webinar about a week ago. FIABCHI is a international brokerage affiliate organization. And there, the different agents from all over the world, from US, UK, Dubai, Canada, we're talking about how their clients are responding to the COVID situation. And one very important thing that they mentioned was their clients, and this was an agent from Manhattan in New York. And he said, my clients who are looking at the luxury portfolio of about $3 to $5 million per apartment is now asking about indoor air quality and the type of air filter being used in the building, which has never been asked before. I don't think you will ask about the air filters when you purchase any property. I don't think you will ask about the type of glass windows that the developer provides when you purchase a property. Most of the time you talk about or you ask about what the layout is and how much the price per square meter is, if it's affordable or not. So now is the time to ask the right questions in terms of asking and being able to understand the properties you invest in. Now, for building occupants, most of the multinational companies today, and I'll come up with a very known one, Starbucks. Starbucks, wherein everyone loves coffee, everyone loves Starbucks, and they're all over the world. And imagine a Starbucks store, cafe, they are now LEED certified. Even the Starbucks, I believe, in BGC, the one with a drive-through, they already LEED certified. So more and more companies are going for the LEED certification. And as mentioned earlier, sustainable buildings boost productivity and performance. It enhances employee satisfaction. And this is one thing very important. It reduces sick leave, stress levels, and absenteeism. Now let's go to the employees of the companies. And majority of the employees today are millennials. And based on the study of Jones Lang LaSalle and International Well Building Institute, 70% of millennials said they prefer to work in a company with a strong sustainability agenda. So they are very open-minded and they are very into sustainability. There is also a study saying that sustainable and healthy working environment help in employee attraction and retention. Now, What's the impact to investors? As mentioned earlier, we're number 2 in the world in terms of outsourcing. And a big consideration here is that our rent and values are still 80% lower than other countries. When you talk about Hong Kong, Tokyo, Taipei, Singapore, as compared to other Asian countries, we still provide the lower rents, the lower manpower costs, but the same or even better talent. If you're comparing the Philippines to the US, call center in the Philippines is actually a career wherein people look for corporate growth. In other countries such as the US, they see call centers or BPOs more of a temporary jumpstart for them to get some savings before they transfer to a different job. That's the difference between the mentality of people, for example, in the US and in the Philippines. So with us making it a career and for multinational companies understanding that, they would rather transfer here. Now, as mentioned earlier, sustainable buildings give you better value in terms of your properties. An actual example is our first residential project, Aria Residences, which already has a 250% value increase of the property. And mind you, we have turned over this property 7 years ago. And until today, Aria Residences is still the only LEED certified gold property in the Philippines for residential. Number 2, Savina Villas, which we've launched, I think, November last year. And on the first month, November to December, we sold out the first tranche or the first phase. And we launched the second phase this February. And with only a few months, 4 months, 5 months, values have increased by at least 20%. Another actual example is Arthaland Century Pacific Tower. This is our flagship office building and is the first net zero carbon building in the world, certified by EDGE of IFC. We have a 20% higher rental rate as compared to other buildings in BGC. And mind you, we were fully leased out before the construction of the building finished. Lastly, Cebu Exchange and Savia Financial Center, which is our project currently, we are pre-selling, have already increased in value by 15%. And this is not just from actual experience, but also from studies by MNG Real Estate, by the International Finance Corporation, and the World Green Building Council. Values of properties of sustainable, which has sustainable features, have increased already by 7% in the first year. According to IFC, or the International Finance Corporation, higher sale premiums of up to 31% and higher rental income up to 8%. So this is not just based on studies, but actual examples that we have already experienced with our properties. Now, these are the important features and important aspects of a sustainable development. So thank you for listening in today. Do let us know if you have any questions. We are on standby in the Q&A portion.